In 2023, the US government all but confirmed the existence of alien life on Earth. The details, however, remain under strict lock and key. The question remains, just how far is the government willing to go in order to cover up interactions with aliens? Would they attempt to discredit a whistleblower or scare them into staying quiet? Would they even have them taken out permanently? In 1996, one man learned the answer to that question firsthand, and the world has been attempting to unravel the mysteries of both his life and death ever since. This is the tragic story of Phil Schneider and the Battle of Dulce Mountain. The deserts of New Mexico are notorious for being hotbeds of UFO and alien activity, even before the crash at Roswell. Stories of spaceships, unexplainable lights in the sky, and the sudden presence of military helicopters are not uncommon. It was outside the town of Dulce, nestled in the heart of the Jicarilla Apache Reservation, where Phil Schneider witnessed an unprecedented battle between the United States military and members of an alien species. The events that occurred changed Phil's view of the universe forever, and would ultimately claim his life. The town of Dulce is no exception when it comes to tales of the supernatural. The people there have been reporting stories of these oddities since at least the 1930s. Reports of aliens, however, seem to have picked up in the 1970s after State Trooper Gabe Valdez reported an unnerving string of cattle mutilations in the area. He would say in a radio interview, "The evidence that was left there, you know? Predators don't leave gas masks, glow sticks, radar chaff. They don't leave that stuff." This officer would go on to make very direct claims about the things he saw, including a description of an extraterrestrial that can easily be understood as a grey alien. He told one Santa Fe newspaper that the creature looked humanoid, but was more proportional to a monkey, and its skin looked like that of a frog. He claimed its bulbous head looked like it was filled with water. His belief at the time was that the cows were being used to incubate baby aliens. Whether there was any truth to his fear remains to be determined. Over the years, the area has developed a bit of a reputation among the UFO community. The Santa Fe, New Mexican claims if Roswell is the capital of New Mexico's fascination with the unexplained, Dulce is the town of true believers. Citizens of Dulce have heard all the stories. There are plenty of people who are willing to speak openly about their own UFO sightings, interactions with the secretive men in black, and some even claim to have seen actual aliens in person. Many of their stories sound eerily similar to ones told about Area 51. The way aircraft are described and how they are said to move is very reminiscent of reports told by the likes of Bob Lazar, among other experts and authorities. It is all too similar to just be a coincidence. One of the most peculiar and most unfortunate stories of alien interaction is that of Phil Schneider. Phil was an explosives engineer who claimed he had seen inside an artificial cavern created to house grey aliens while working on a government contract in 1979. Tyler of Secure Team 10 says, Phil Schneider is one of the most mysterious murders of a man who literally blew the lid off the government's network of underground bases which are used to house aliens. Schneider was working on a highly secretive underground base on the Jicarilla Apache Reservation in New Mexico, near Dulce. He told the Huffington Post that his suspicions first began when he noticed American Special Forces operating in and around the area. It is believed that the team Phil was a part of had been contracted by the government to clear out space for an expansion of the base. During his time there, Phil discovered that aliens were being kept underground near where he was working. They were fed cow's blood and possibly even human blood for sustenance. This had been going on for years, dating back to even before Trooper Valdez made his report to the newspaper in Santa Fe. Phil learned what he could about the base while doing his job. His position allowed for limited security clearance, so the majority of what he learned came from what he could deduce from plans and schematics, and what he could overhear from the Green Berets assigned to watching over them as they worked. One day, he came face to face with a group of grey aliens. He described them as 7 feet tall and very smelly. In his surprise, he pulled out a pistol and shot 2 of them. A third alien shot him with a blaster of some kind, taking off some of his fingers. One of the Green Berets jumped into action and sacrificed his life to save Phil. After that, the scene turned into a full-scale battle. The carnage was instant, and Phil scrambled to find some cover from the firefight. The Green Berets brought all the firepower they could muster, while the aliens shot back with some kind of blue energy blasts. The damage these blasts did was horrific. Phil claimed if a soldier took a hit head-on, it would practically turn them inside out. The skirmish raged on for what felt like hours before the aliens began to back down and retreat. When the dust finally settled, at least 60 men and an unknown number of aliens had been killed. What happened immediately afterwards is difficult to determine. What we know for sure is that after working on that job, Phil would go on to make reports with several reputable news sources about his experiences. He dedicated his life to discovering everything he could about the bunker, the aliens, and the reason so many men lost their lives that day. He began touring the country, sharing his stories with anyone who would listen. Phil would go on to make some shocking claims about the bunkers. In all, he said there are 192 of these bases in the US and over 1,400 worldwide. The ones in the United States are all interconnected, lending credence to the theory that there is an intricate system of tunnels built deep underground that crisscross the entire country. In the years after his run-in with the aliens housed in Dulce, New Mexico, Phil's life changed drastically. More people were interested in what he had to say. Among those interested in his version of events were some people in positions of authority. Several documentaries were eventually made, and most of them were subsequently suppressed. News outlets began turning him down for interviews. His fall from the limelight was the least of his worries, however. Phil began to be pressured to be quiet. He would receive phone calls that would leave him disturbed, and he began mentioning interactions he had with strangers who warned him of the consequences of continuing to tell the tale of the Battle of Dulce Mountain. Nigel Watson, author of the UFO Investigations Manual, was quoted as saying, "UFO researcher Phillip Schneider became increasingly fearful for his personal safety. Government vans followed him and several attempts were made to run his car off the road." His worst fears would become his reality in January 1996. Like many who came before him and many who would follow after, his personal stories of extraterrestrial interactions were met with hostility from those in positions of power. In time, the government, or whoever it was that was shadowing his every move, finally got what they wanted. For nearly a week, no one had seen or heard from Phil. He was not answering his phone, and it seemed there was no activity in his home. His friends and family began to worry. Eventually, one of his friends broke into his apartment in Wilsonville, Oregon, and unfortunately found their worst suspicions confirmed. According to reports, Phil had been dead for several days. At first, medical examiners believed he died from a stroke, but later, an autopsy found that rubber tubing had been wrapped and knotted around his neck. All the warning signs had been there. Phil's refusal to stop telling his stories had led to him being forcibly silenced for good. Reports did not end when Phil's government job was completed, and interest in the underground base outside Dulce, New Mexico certainly did not end with his death. If anything, the mysterious and alarming circumstances surrounding his demise only brought more attention to his claims. UFO investigators believe there was still more for Phil to tell the world, and they have set about discovering what that might have been. Unearthing the truth behind the exact purpose of the base has not been easy. Whoever wants this information hidden has done a fantastic job of keeping a lid on things. Interviews with Phil have been slowly yet systematically scrubbed from all records. Videos and articles detailing the events of the Battle of Dulce Mountain have become harder and harder to find. It has become abundantly clear that the truth is out there, and someone is trying their hardest to make sure no one can find it. Still, ufologists persevere, confident that one day the truth of what happened under Dulce Mountain and what happened to Phil himself will be told in the light of day. Until then, investigators and believers can only wonder. What do you think is really going on? Why is the government hiding aliens in underground bases in New Mexico? Why did the aliens have blasters that night? What was Phil not able to tell us? Let us know in the comments. You never know, maybe your theory will be the one that cracks the case. Don't forget to click that like button and maybe give one of the suggested videos on the screen a try next. There's plenty more where this came from, and you don't want to miss a minute of it. We'll see you in the next one, and remember, the truth is closer than you think.